Okay, so in this video I'm going to take you through how to create a multi-sampled instrument in Ableton Live using Sampler. So multi-sampling being the process of recording multiple samples of an instrument and also recording those at different velocities. So for example, on a drum kit you would record each element, like the hi-hat, soft, medium, hard, or as many times as you want. So soft, medium, and hard. Same thing for the other elements. Kick drum, snare, and so on. If it was a piano or a guitar, you would record each note individually and then also at different velocities or volume levels. So let's get started. So we're going to go in and we're going to use Sampler for this one. So I'll drop that onto a new MIDI track. And there's the empty instrument. I'm not going to go through all of the controls or many of them at all in this video. I just really want to go through how to create the multi-sample instrument. You can tweak it later. So here it is. I'm clicking on the Zone tab, and this is going to give me a space where I can drop multiple samples at once to make things a little bit quicker. So I'm going to navigate to my folder with my pre-recorded and edited samples, so these are all ready to go, and I'll start with the kick drum. So I'm going to select a lot of them and just drop them into this zones area that I found here. Now the green lines here represent or indicate that the sample's been mapped across all the keys of the keyboard. So if I play a high note or a low note, it's going to basically play that sample back at a different speed to pitch it up and down, essentially. That's not what I want for a percussive instrument. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring in the edges of these green lines, or this mapping, and put my samples to only one note. So for a percussive or a drum instrument, that's what you want. You just want to have, if you play C1, you get the kick drum. If you play a D, you get the snare, and so on. Now, second thing to have a look at here, so I've set the key ranges how I want them, but you notice this tiny little R, and that stands for the root key, and that indicates the key at which the sample will be played back at its original pitch and speed. Okay, so at the moment that's the C3, and if I play C1, I'm going to get a very pitched down version of that sample. So that's not what I want either. To change that, I'm going to go down here and I'm going to set the root key until it says C1. And because all three of these were selected, I've moved that little R for all of them. And now when I play the C1, you'll see the note light up, plays the sample back at its original speed and pitch. Now this isn't quite finished. If you notice here, if I take these off, this is like muting them, and I play the note, that's the very quiet sample, and the medium one, and the loud one. So all three samples are playing back despite the velocity or how hard I play that note. And that's not what we want. That's the whole purpose of recording different velocities, is that when I play a quiet note, I'm actually playing back just a quiet sample. When I play a medium hardness or velocity, I'm hearing this one. And when I play it hard, I'm hearing this one. It'll give you a much more sort of accurate or expressive sounding instrument. So to do that, we use the velocity section or tab up here, and these red lines represent the mappings for the velocity, essentially. So what this is saying at the moment is that all three of these samples will play at all velocities, despite how soft or hard I hit the note. So if I play quietly, you'll see a little blue line up the top. If I play medium or hard, I'm getting all three samples all the time. That's not what I want. So one way to do this is I'm just going to deselect all of them, so I've just got one selected at a time, and I'm going to go in and give these different velocity ranges. So up to this velocity, 40 or 41, it's going to play that sample only, and then from say 40 to 80, it's going to play only this sample, and above that it's only going to play that sample. And you can have them overlapping if you want, and you can even fade the levels of them by moving these tiny little extra lines at the top. So that might be another way to make something sound more natural or work better for you, for your scenario. I might not do that today, so I'm just going to leave it like this. Okay, so I'll play my MIDI controller. I'm just getting the low note, sorry, the quiet sample, the medium sample, and the loud sample. And that's essentially it. If you were to only have one of these samples and simply have the volume follow the velocity, so if I play, and perhaps I've got just the loud recording and I play a quiet note, it's not going to have the same dynamic or the same overtones or the same sound as actually recording a quiet note. So that's sort of the reason behind doing this. Okay, so let's go through the process a couple more times. Shift click to select the range of samples. I'm going to drop them in, set the note to the next white key. I'm just skipping the black keys for the time being. That's quite typical for drum instruments. And I'm going to move the root key down so that it lines up with D1. So again, I'll just zoom in so you can see the root key is inside the tiny box. Velocity ranges, this time having all three selected. To save a bit of time, I can right click and use distribute ranges equally, and that will do exactly what it says, and distribute the ranges equally. If I want to, I could move these ones that I did before so that they're even, or so that they match. It's not necessarily the right thing to do there. It might work for, you know, a certain type of drum or note or whatever, that you have the quiet note playing up to a higher velocity and the middle one for a shorter range and so on. So that's all up to you when you create your instrument, whatever you think sounds best. Do it another time here, so bring this in to E, and same thing here, set the root note, bring that down to there. Go into velocities with all three selected, right click and distribute ranges equally. So for your exercise, you just need to go through the process of adding those in and just demonstrating that you're able to map the key range, set the root note, and set velocity ranges, and that way you can create your own multi-sampled instruments. It's a really good thing to be able to do, particularly if you've got access to rare or unusual instruments or something that you've borrowed. You can multi-sample them and then you can replay that instrument. And the other interesting aspect of doing this is that it will sound different. It'll never sound exactly like a keyboard or a piano or a drum kit or a violin, but it'll give you something different, and you'll be able to play patterns in a way that's sort of impossible in the physical instrument.